Hello there, Bowsie. It's time once again for Bowsie's Vlogs. I'm Sonic Blue, and this is Bowsie. Today I decided to tell you about a really interesting anecdote that I discovered about Bowsie. Now, bearded dragons are smart enough to know what they like and what they don't like, usually triggered by scent, taste, and other senses that us humans have. For instance, look and appearance. Now, one day I was kicking back in my bed, just playing some 3DS on the bed, playing on Pokemon Platinum, and you notice that on the Generation 4? Generation 4 games, that the animations of all of the Pokemon differ quite significantly from the other animations you're used to seeing. Well, Bowsie got a good look at some of the Magikarps, because I was fighting a fisherman at the time, and nothing but Magikarps came up in his collection of Pokemon. And I was sitting there playing it. I mean, any other Pokemon that showed up, and they did their little animation before you battle them, Bowsie didn't really pay attention to it until Magikarp showed up. And when Magikarp showed up on the screen, her eyes followed it. And everywhere Magikarp was, her eyes would follow. And I'm thinking that Magikarp has a certain animation that triggers her eyesight into thinking, wow, what is this? Something I can catch? Something I can play with? You remember that, huh? Don't you, baby? You want a Magikarp? Or do you like Magikarp? Do you? Do you like Magikarp? Yeah, well, Magikarp isn't a very good Pokemon. You know that, right? No. Not in pre-evolved form, but when they evolve. Or Gyarados, that name. Look at her head tilt. I talk to her all the time, and she tilts her head like she knows what I'm talking about. I've noticed about bearded dragons that they do detect motion. And some of them will actually try to interact with that motion. I've seen bearded dragons, like bearded dragon owners will download that, what is that? That Ant Crusher? I've seen some bearded dragons play Ant Crusher on a tablet. So they can see motion. In fact, that's how they hunt their prey, is by motion. They detect it by motion, and they taste the air to see what that thing is, to identify what it is by sense of smell. Because although bearded dragons don't really smell with their noses, they smell with their tongues. And they also use their tongues to detect whether or not there are potential predators around as well. I guess I could tell you about the senses that Bowsie had displayed the moment we brought her home. We've already talked about her eyesight, and her favorite Pokemon is Magikarp. I guess I could tell you about the very first time that we brought her home. We bought her at Petco, and while we were there, we also picked up the entire kit for the Terrarium. So we picked that up, and it came with some calcium sand. Now, this was during a time where it was kind of iffy whether or not to give them that kind of husbandry. And at the time, we didn't have anything else, and we really had to throw something quick together. And since it came with the whole unit, we decided to get it started, but keep a close eye on her, because bearded dragons can't really ingest sand. Even if it's calcium sand, they can't really ingest the sand because it can cause what is called impaction. And it prevents them from regularly doing a number 2. And so they can actually die from impaction. So you really have to watch what you put in your bearded dragon's terrarium, especially when it comes to sand or loose particles. There are certain things that you don't want to put in there, like that crushed walnut. You definitely don't want to get crushed walnut, because they can get some of that in their food and they can choke on it. Some of the pieces might be too sharp, and when they come out the other end, it can cause some serious internal damages. So stay away from crushed walnut, no matter what pet stores believe in. I had one pet store which was actually a lizard specialist store. They specialized in reptiles and lizards and snakes, and they even had alligators there, little baby ones. So, if anything, these people knew their reptiles. They also recommended that Bowsie get some crushed walnut for her terrarium. And at the time, I never heard of such a thing, so I tried it. And then I went online and looked it up. See, I did this in the very wrong order, you see. Because just because they specialize in reptiles does not always mean they're 100% correct. So I found out that online Many people have complained about using crushed walnuts in the terrariums of their pet, especially with bearded dragons. And some of them have actually accidentally ingested some of them. One of them had pictures of actually a dissection of a bearded dragon that had died from ingestion and impaction due to crushed walnut. And it was very scary. Yeah, you remember that, huh? You didn't know what to think when it was filled with when in your terrarium, huh? Oh, you're happy. See, now she knows she's in a part of a camera. She gaped at me. She knows because she thinks I'm talking to her, and when she knows I'm talking to her, she'll smile, she'll gape. Basically, those crushed walnuts did not last very long in her terrarium. I actually took some recommendations, and all you really need is either newspaper or shelf liner. And the shelf liner is actually better because it adheres to the bottom of the terrarium, and it doesn't cause them any damages to their claws. Bowsie still has all of her claws, and it's easy to replace. And all you need to do is just like go to Walmart and pick up one of those super mega rolls of shelf liner, and you rinse it off really good before you put it in their terrarium. Make sure to get all the excess chemical off of it, and you just soak it in water, warm water, for a while. But never use soap and never use cleaner when you put something in your bearded dragon's terrarium. The only exception to cleaner for their terrarium is stuff that is specially made to clean bearded dragon's terrariums. There are a couple of solutions that you can find in your pet store for the task, and one of them is called Wipeout, which is this little green bottle filled with green liquid in it. And that might be a little strong, but you let the thing air out for a while, so you don't put your bearded dragon right back in immediately after you scrub them with Wipeout. You want to let it air out first before you put them back. Put bearded dragons back in there. But there's another solution which works really well, and it's this big bottle of soapy water that is formulated to not only leave no trace of the cleaner when you rinse it out, but it also has a scrub brush on it, and so you can scrub as you apply the cleaner. And that stuff works really well. The only drawback to that is that it accumulates a lot of soapy water in their terrarium. So you have to, if you're dealing with like a 40-gallon tank, you have to pick that thing up and empty it out. And I used to be a very athletic guy. I used to be able to lift 200 pounds with no problem. My body isn't what it used to be. So lifting a 40-gallon tank, with a good size of this cleaner and rinse water at the same time just is not going to be happening. So I usually use the Wipeout. There you go. There's that beautiful smile. I use the Wipeout, and then I just, it's easy to rinse. It's easy to deal with. And all you got to do is just wipe it through, and it does a very good job in cleaning. And you just let it air out before you put the bearded dragon back in, and they're happy. And you put some shelf liner down for their husbandry. Nothing could be better. Isn't that right, Bowsie? Sure is better than that husbandry I used when you were little, huh? Yeah, you didn't like... Well, you liked that sand. But let me tell you, I told you that so I can go back to telling you about when I first brought her home and got her on that calcium sand. Now, the first moment that I put her in her terrarium, she was using her tongue to lick everywhere in that terrarium, like she was looking for predators. And she didn't know what to expect, so... If you bring your bearded dragon home and you put them in the terrarium right away, they probably don't know what situation they're going to be in until they've had some time to adapt. The first moment they go inside their terrarium, their new home, you'll notice they'll flick their tongues out a lot, and they're going to taste everything, including calcium sand. And she had a good dose of calcium sand before I realized what she was doing. And when this is another example of how Bowsie can really surprise the heck out of me. I watched her digging around inside of the sand, and I'm thinking, what in the world is she doing? Is she trying to find a way to cool off? I mean, what is this? So I figure, she's getting used to her husbandry, getting a feel of her sand and what she's going to be walking around in. And then she starts tasting the air, looking for predators, looking for prey. And then when she finally finishes that, she actually leans her head in, starts licking up some of the sand. And I didn't know if it was good for her at the time because she was so little. I didn't know if the calcium sand was a special formula of sand that they could eat and that it was digestible or dilutable when they reached their system. I didn't know. And once again, it always helps to do full research before you put anything in their terrariums. And you got to get into the habit of this. And I didn't. But I got lucky. Because Bowsie still managed to have regular bowel movement. So she didn't suffer from impaction. And the only real thing that scared me, though, was she had just jumped into her water, little lagoon thing filled with water. And then she jumped out into the sand and got sand all over her feet, her arms. And some of it even went up into her ear canal right up here. So I had to take a Q-tip and very gently kind of take those particles out of her ear. So bearded dragons require a lot of care, especially in their juvenile or their infancy state. Especially when they're infants, you cannot watch these things enough. And if you're a caring bearded dragon owner like I am, you really want to watch out for what they do, because everything they do, they can scare you. And just give them lots of love and good intentions. Watch everything they do. And always remember to note the location of any reptile experts in your area that work on exotic pets. If you know of a veterinarian in town, always keep their contact information handy, because you never know when one of these things needs that kind of care. Isn't that right, Bowsie? Sometimes if I gape at her, she'll gape at me. And we just have this gaping game. Let's see if I can get her to do it again. You want to do it for the camera? Want to do it for the camera? You want to? Come here. Okay. Let's turn her around. Want to say hi? Say hi. Hi. Hi, Bowsie. But these are just many of the ways the bearded dragons can use all of their senses, and being able to identify what they do and why they do it. It really brings you closer to the bearded dragon, and helps you to understand why they flick their tongues out, or why they lick certain things, why they, how they taste certain things, how they sniff certain things, how they detect certain things, how they see the world through their eyes. And I just think it's really hilarious that Bowsie's favorite Pokemon is Magikarp. What about Gyarados? Do you like Gyarados? I should show her Gyarados sometime. I don't think I've shown her Gyarados, but she loves her Magikarps. I wish I had some footage of her, but I don't. I never was able to get good footage of you in a Magikarp, huh? No, I didn't. No, I didn't. Hi. Hi. You're just a happy little girl, huh? Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Hi. Hi, baby. So, hopefully this vlog has either inspired you to get into bearded dragon care, or at least helped you to understand your bearded dragons a little better. Because the purpose of this vlog is not just to tell you a bunch of anecdotes featuring Bowsie here, but it's also a way for you to interpret some of the things that they feel by some of my own experiences and some of my own knowledge of taking care of these little critters. And hopefully it actually helps you in the care of your own bearded dragon, if you have one or so choose to get one. They really are remarkable pets, and very easy to take care of. And you can never put a price on the friendship they give you in return. And next time on Bowsie's Vlogs, I'm going to tell you about the bond that they share with their owners, and why I feel that Bowsie's bond with me is very strong. And I'll tell you exactly why in the next Bowsie's Vlog. Want to say hi to everyone? Say hi. Say bye-bye. Say bye-bye. 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 Say bye-bye. Say bye-bye to everyone. Whoa! Bowsie. She grabbed my camera. She wants this camera. Look at that. Did you see that, folks? This is one of the things that Bowsie does when she wants to go into Daredevil mode. She jumps. And she's got the legs and arms to do it. She's not afraid of leaping. And at this heavy-set girl, she eats good, too, as you can tell. She's got a real good-sized belly, and she's got some good weight to her. Having that leaping for you, or leaping for stuff like this camera here, it can still scare you, but they bounce right back. Bowsie bounces back every time, don't you, girl? Yes, you do. I know. You're getting hyper again, huh? You want to go have another go at the camera? Here, I'll put you right there. There you go. See? There's your camera. There's your camera, the one you knocked down off of my monitor. So I think before any more damage happens to my camera or to Bowsie, I think it's best to wrap up this video. So, on behalf of Bowsie's Vlogs, this is Sonic Blue, and this is Bowsie, wishing everybody good luck in the care of your bearded dragons, and may these vlogs inspire you to get one if you don't have one. They're really amazing pets. So full of personality, too. Don't you? Yeah. Say goodbye, Bowsie. Bye.